Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Yes, it's a Judd's Practice Notes edition of Purple Daily here. We've kind of brought this as a new weekly feature. A, because Judd's out at practice every Wednesday and a couple days a week. You can find the sports dad asking all the tough questions, the intricate X's and O's football questions to Kevin O'Connell and players.
You know it.
So we just kind of created this this space to dump Judd's notebook out for you guys, the audience. Thor's Day today, too. We've got a bunch of fun topics with Thor Nystrom, so keep an eye on your Purple Daily podcast and YouTube feed. So before we get into Judd's practice notes here, a fun little announcement. A lot of you guys have been asking, okay, when's the next time we can all hang out together and either take in Event Line, which we will have details about in a few weeks. But coming up on Monday, October 1st at Podrigs in Minneapolis, it's another Purple Daily Unplugged gathering, 5 to 7 o'clock p.m. during Monday Night Football, by the way. There's two games that night, Baltimore, Tampa, and then LA Chargers and Arizona. So we're going to be hanging out, doing a Purple Daily Unplugged podcast for the assembled audience. You can register at scorenorth.com/unplugged. You do have to have a ticket. It's free, but you do have to register at scorenorth.com/unplugged. We did it once a couple months ago before the season, Judd. Podrigs, just a great place to host a little gathering.
Tons of fun, and yeah, it's great because people can come up and ask us questions about the team or about ourselves, and it's a very chill, relaxed environment. And yes, Podrigs is absolutely fantastic. In fact, while you're either watching us or subsequently the football games, this is a local craft brewery that's recreating Irish and UK classics. I'll say it again, you've got to try the red. It's absolutely fantastic. The lager is good as well. It's in the old Lando Nod factory at the corner of Broadway and Central Avenues Northeast. And also, if you do enjoy Podrigs, available in more than 80 liquor stores in the Twin Cities. So check them out. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram, podrigs.com. But yeah, come and join us. Those are always a good time. I think the Unplugged thing, I think it might catch on, Phil.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of... It's very
vibe.
like 90s VH1-ish or MTV-ish.
It's because they've got the carpet at Podrigs. They've got an awesome carpet there and some very relaxing chairs. Yeah, you're right.
It's chill. So, yeah, scorenorth.com/unplugged to register. All right, where do you want to start here? Dumping out the practice notes, the Wednesday practice notes.
Let's start with this. Let's start with the eventual return, which is now starting to take shape, of one TJ Hockenson, who will then give the Vikings a passing game that will include the best receiver in the entire league in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who I continue to say I think would be the number one receiver on a lot of teams. Jalen Naylor has emerged, and now you're about to reintroduce one of the better, not the best, I would say one of the better pass-catching tight ends in the entire league. Now, so if you go back to around last Christmas, around that time of year, playing the Lions at US Bank Stadium, Hockenson suffered a torn ACL and MCL damage that didn't require repair. The ACL did. So he has been out to start the season. Now, the technicalities of this league are such that the Vikings could stash him on the reserve list. They have to make a decision, though, now, and the clock on this will start on Friday. So what it is the team has to declare that Hockenson has returned to practice so he can then start participating in drills and things like that. Because he was on a reserve list to start the season, they then have 21 days to decide when he's going to come back. After that, he has to be put back on the 53-man roster. The Thursday night game against the Rams on the 24th falls the day before the 21-day period will expire. So it's a very interesting, the Thursday night game makes this incredibly interesting. Hockenson can be activated. I mean, he could have been activated for the Jets game. He will travel. He will not play. He'll start practicing in London on Friday. The Vikings will then have a bye week. The Vikings will then play the Lions on October 20th, a Sunday, in their first game back from the bye at home. And then they'll travel and play the Rams on the 24th. Hockenson, if he's making the best progress possible, could be activated for either the Lions or Rams games. But if they decide to hold him out, the first game that he would have to play in back on the roster, November 3rd against the Colts at home. Now, what makes this intriguing is you have because the game is on the 24th, you have a little bit more leeway as far as a decision having to be made. The only thing is when he's activated, you're going to have to make a 53-man move. I don't think that's going to be the toughest thing.
No,
but
Tanyan is he on the practice squad? I guess Tanyan.
He's been called. Yeah, he gets called up for games. And I think you can promote a guy 3 times. But anyway, long story short, he's coming back. The question is when, and the Vikings are in a situation where the progress is such that he can start practicing on Friday.
So it's all becoming crystal clear to me.
Yes.
The obvious time where you activate him.
Mm-hmm.
Obvious, it's not going to be Jets. He's just integrating into practice for the first time. They're trying to get it. Let's travel to London, be with your teammates, get back into practice, just kind of get a lather up right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they would necessarily do it against the Lions. Although bye week into Lions, you could, but Lions are also the team that goes hunting for kneecaps. So I think the Lions game is kind of 50-50 coming off that bye week.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I used to love watching NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt was one of my favorite athletes. I grew up, my uncle, and I've got family members who race in Wisconsin, stock cars. So I grew up a huge NASCAR fan. And I'd be sitting there as a kid, even through high school, just playing NASCAR video games and watching all the races. In fact, quick side story for the 5% of people that watch 90s NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt wiping out Terry Labonte at that small Bristol racetrack was one of the great moments where it's like there's one lap to go, and Terry Labonte had fresh tires because he had taken a pit stop, got the fresh 4 tires, and Dale Earnhardt is trying to hold him off, wily veteran. Labonte passes him with the fresh tires, and Earnhardt gets into his side and wipes him out to win the race. But the fresh tires are a key to being strategic at the end of NASCAR races. That Thursday night game against the Rams, everyone's going to be banged up on both sides coming off short rest. You're playing the Lions in an all-out war on Sunday, October 20th.
Yep.
You got to dust yourself off Monday, Tuesday, get back into it. What if, as a boost for some fresh tires in that Thursday night game, you unleashed a completely 100% fresh TJ Hockenson?
Yeah.
Everybody else is walking around like a zombie, a football zombie, banged up, bruised,
right,
far less than 100%. And here comes this stock car thoroughbred tight end, having not played a game, ready to rock and roll. I'm just saying, like, it could be a great jolt for that Thursday night game if TJ Hockenson is the only fresh player on the field.
I sort of like it. Yeah, it's a definite, and that would probably make, to your point, the most sense as far as like if you're going to bring him back. I don't, the Lions game you might, but I sort of like that Rams game. And if you don't, if he's not, if you have questions, the nice thing is you play that game. You've got the Thursday night, I guess, bye week situation. You bring him back on Friday, but then he's got, quite a period to ramp up for the November 3rd game against the Colts. But I like that one. I like that one because you're right. I don't know who the Rams have on Sunday the 20th, but that is going to be a war. Like that Lions game, that's basically a Niners game, the same thing, right? Like just the physical toll. So I sort of like the thinking of if he's set to play, he's fresh, he's set to go. Everyone else is, if nothing else, just tired because it's only 4 days. So I like it. I think you're going down the right path.
Another thought too is it's kind of crazy that we're in a major transition period for tight end play in the NFL. And some of it is like the passing numbers are down across the league and running numbers are up. And we had the big Mel Kiper too high safety debate 2 weeks ago, which is ridiculous. But
stupidest thing. Yeah.
With Travis Kelce kind of aging out and no longer the player that he was, Mark Andrews, a non-factor. These were like Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce were like and George Kittle were like the 3 tier 1 tight ends just a couple years ago. And Kittle is in his 30s and kind of banged up. So Kittle has 15 catches through the first month. Travis Kelce he had 8 in the last game. So he has 15 now, but he's been just completely quiet.
Yeah.
Dallas Goedert currently leads all tight ends with only 24 catches and 300 yards through the first month of the season. And then Brock Bowers with Las Vegas has 20 catches. No other tight end even has 20 catches through the first month of the season. So, like, TJ Hockenson with Kelsey coming down and Kittle aging, banged up, and Mark Andrews, there's a space for TJ Hockenson to come back from this injury and just be the premier pass-catching tight end in the NFL.
I don't think people necessarily process how much that position takes out of a person. Like, I would compare that far more to the physical abuse. I would compare it far more to running back than receiver.
Like catching in baseball almost, where you got it.
Yeah. But I mean, those guys
blocking like
Kelsey's had an incredible, like, if you consider how long he's been doing this, it's incredible. But yeah, that's a position where it's funny though, because go back to like when you first started to follow football and think about the tight ends. They usually don't last. It feels like a long time. Like a guy will be like on top of the world for a year, 2 or 3, and then it's like boom. It's not that they retire immediately, but there definitely is a decline. So yeah, I mean, and in Hockenson's case, I just wonder what the possibilities are with an offense that has 3 receivers who, have established, one is otherworldly, but 2 are damn good. And now you're going to, and you've got Aaron Jones, you've got a screen game. The embarrassment of riches from a play caller, aka Kevin O'Connell's standpoint. And I mean, I know it's a lot and there's one football to go around, but I think it opens up tremendous opportunities if, assuming Hockenson comes back healthy as can be, to what you can possibly dial up, right? Because like right now, Oliver's done a really nice job, and Munt's, he's okay for what he does. But what happens when if you reintroduce a TJ Hockenson who is fresh and let's say he's 90%? What do you do exactly if you're a defense?
Well, it's already hard enough.
I know.
The Vikings are the third highest scoring team in the league without Hockenson. And you got Johnny Munt and Josh Oliver running these routes right now.
Yeah.
We'll see when he comes back and how the math works out, but there's a chance that TJ Hockenson could still be one of the 5 most productive tight ends in the league for the entire season, having missed a month and a half. There's only 2 tight ends with over 170 receiving yards through the first month. So if he comes in and just let's say he comes in and has 5 catches for 75 yards in the first game, and then, maybe he comes in and they ease him back. But yeah, it opens a whole new bag for Kevin O'Connell and individually for Hockenson. The league is kind of yours right now from a pass catching standpoint. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Second thing, I did get a chance, as promised on Sunday, to ask O'Connell about the play clock situation, running down a bit. And I think they took 2 delay games in the first quarter at Green Bay. I seem to recall that was a problem week 1 or 2 as well. Like it's not a huge problem, but I mean, 2 2/4 is a lot. He confirmed that they need to offensively have a bit more pace, get going, that there can be a bit of a leg at times. Now there are times where because it's a meat and potatoes type of topic, but there are times that he explained where it's a little more difficult to get things in and out when you're changing personnel, so you're going from 12 to 21 to 30, so he did talk about that. But he said, if that's not the case, then we just need to move more. We need to be basically it's an us problem. He didn't blame Sam, but Sam ultimately is the guy as well. He certainly didn't say, I'm calling the plays in late, Judd. Sorry about that. So
yeah, I don't think KOC is like stammering and trying to figure out what do I do.
What play do I call? So my interpretation was this. There are times that Sam needs to probably operate the offense quicker.
Yeah.
That's simple. But I mean, those are penalties you just don't need.
As Brad Childress used to say, you got to spit it out, spit the play out a little faster.
And get him to the line.
Yeah, gather up. Come on.
But
he needs to do more of the Mahomes, the finger waving thing. Right?
But O'Connell did say that is because we're 4 games in. at this point, a month into the season. He did say that's a work in progress thing. Like that's a thing that will come. So there's not a concern there, but that certainly is not a good situation to back yourself up 5 yards, so 1st and 10 becomes 1st and 15. So
I love
the
the first world problems that we're left to talk about with the Vikings offense, which is, they tend to let the play clock run down a little bit. And God, how are they going to reintegrate a top 5 pass catching tight end into this offense?
Well, the nice thing though is on the defensive side of the ball, and Brian Flores and a few players talked about this because the coordinators do their press conferences on Tuesday, Phil. The nice thing was this win against the Packers was definitely not perceived as a win. They weren't defensively, and they shouldn't have been. They were not pleased. They're like, that was not, we cannot, 29 points, outscoring, or the Vikings outscored 29-3 after the Vikings had taken a 28-0 lead. And it sounds like the player said Flores got into us really good about this. So
it's kind of perfect. You win the game.
Yes.
You show signs of major dominance, but then there's enough to piss everybody off for the upcoming week.
And it should, right?
Yeah.
Like 29 points. It should. Like you're playing that well. You got to stomp them out at that point in time. I mean, you might not score a ton more points, but you certainly can't give up 29. So
also there, the Packers are really, really good, and the Vikings made them look hapless in the first half. So like they were gonna show a pulse. That's too many points to allow in the second half. But it was a combination of a really good Packers team starts to figure out their flow, no pun intended. And the Vikings maybe were sitting back and just being a little bit too keep everything in front of us mode versus aggressive mode. Kind of a perfect storm. But I still come away that first half, man, like we've seen in all 4 games periods for a half or 3 quarters, this Vikings defense completely wiping out some of the best quarterbacks and head coaches. LaFleur as a head coach offensively, CJ Stroud, the Niners, and Kyle Shanahan and Purdy. So I still take away a lot more positive from the first 4 games defensively than the negative from the second half of the Packers.
Yeah, I think the Vikings, among the things that they were most upset about internally, was there were some definite missed tackles. If I saw the quote correctly, and I didn't hear him say this, I think it was on Sunday or Monday, Harrison Smith said flat out, I can't play like that. Like, he didn't look good at times. The only thing was, it shouldn't have become a talking point, in my opinion, that O'Connell went for it on 4th down because the Packers were so backed up. Mm-hmm. Like that one, O'Connell got questioned, and O'Connell certainly did some things that did get questioned from a play calling standpoint, passing, not running the ball. But I would say the decision to go for it, which O'Connell said if he had a 4th challenge, he would have contested that. But the decision to go for it was not the problem.
That's such an easy one in retrospect. And in the moment, I know people are saying, make it would it have been a 12-point game?
Yep.
Because they were up by 9 or
9-point game. Yep. It was a 12-point game.
But still, like if you get the first down there, the game is over. And you've been running the ball really well this season.
And they're 98 yards away, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a 50-yard line. You screwed up. Oh my God, what now? That's a can you go 98 yards against a defense that's been great? And the answer was yes. And I think that left people dissatisfied. But on that one, I will defend the play call. I think it was the right play call. I think it was just the problem was that they drove down there. But
also part of the equation is the clock, because if the Packers don't score before the 2-minute warning and they don't have timeouts left, they have to convert a really low percentage onside kick. So you're banking on 2 things. Can you prevent them from scoring from 98 yards? But more importantly, can you prevent them from scoring quickly from 98 yards? And it was a slow death for the Vikings defense, but there wasn't enough time for unless they convert a miracle onside kick, which I get it. If you leave any door open, I mean the Gopher football team recovered an onside kick against Michigan.
Because in college football, you don't have to declare all your intentions.
It was obvious they were going to kick the onside kick.
I know, but the NFL thing, they've got to go to the 4th and 15.
It would be so much more fun.
That would be. I mean, Jordan Love Like,
Well, that would have been a bigger problem for the
I
Vikings
know,
defense.
but that would have been, but
a
that
fourth
might have
and 18 for the onside kick or whatever.
But as a football fan, I much prefer that.
So real quick, if just another side street, let's say we've been talking about this for like 7
You and
years
Chris
on our
Long
podcast.
dreamed it up before it came out.
We did.
I know you did.
It was during. I can't remember. It must have been like 10 years ago.
I might have been
because it was a Sports Over Beers podcast that we did this whole conversation. We like what if they did like what are the odds of an onside kick converting the old one, and then like let's run a play where the odds are similar. And we said it's like a 4th and 18. So would you just run a 4th and 18 from like your own 30? Yeah. And then do you get the ball where, let's say you convert, it's 25 yards. Do you get the ball spotted going forward?
I think that's
what if you score a touchdown? It doesn't matter. You just, as long as you get the 18, you now get the ball back at your own 30.
That's a good question about where the spot is. I forget that. Yeah, you might be right. But I mean, I just think as far as like, if you're going to have an onside kick that's as fraudulent as they do now, why not allow the best player potentially on your team to decide it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad for the Vikings in that case. Good for football.
Yeah. Before we dig through the rest of Judd's Wednesday practice notes here, how's your tune-up going with Livia?
It's going absolutely great. In fact, I checked in on Tuesday, and guess what? Down 13 plus pounds. That's right, 13 plus downs,
Effective
3 trips,
tune-up.
13 plus pounds. My tune-up is going fantastic. I am dropping the weight and doing fantastic thanks to my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers who have helped me before. And then I said, you know what? I put on a few pounds. Been a couple of years. I'm going back. Easy program. You get to cook or decide on a lot of your foods. That there are foods that they give you mixed in, but this is not oh my God, if I don't have my certain microwave meal with me, that's bad. I'm in trouble. And the great thing is no judgment too. Absolutely a program that works. Again, 3 trips down 13 plus pounds. Join the nutrition plan today. Get your first 8 weeks for free. And their medical offers weight loss medications for accelerated results as well. Check them out. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com. Livea.com. If you want to lose the weight like Sports Dad has, guess what? Livia is the place that you can start. Livea.com.
Hey, a shout out to KS Drywall for providing full drywall plaster repair to the Purple Daily audience and popcorn ceiling texture removal and interior painting services. They do it all. They service the greater Twin Cities Metro and Western Wisconsin. It's a very professional, courteous, and clean crew that can handle anything from new construction to small emergency repairs. No job is too big or too small. And on that popcorn ceiling texture removal, older homes can often have, like Judd loves the popcorn ceiling texture, so you can leave it if you want to.
No, I don't like it as much. I realize I've got it on my wall going down to my basement as well. Have you ever accidentally like stumbled a bit and brushed up against it?
It's kind of painful.
Hurts like hell. I want to get rid of it.
Yeah. So you
My
can't.
finger.
KS Drywall will help you get rid of it, especially if you plan to sell your home someday. You want to increase that value. So go to ksdrywall.com to schedule a free estimate. You can also find them, KS Drywall, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All right, let's keep going through Judd's Wednesday practice notes.
So something else that intrigues me about this game in London is, if you recall, a couple of years ago in KO's first season as coach, the Vikings also played. Now, I think that one was in a different stadium, but they played in London against the Saints. And in that case, the Vikings very specifically said, we requested, because teams will be given a bye after their overseas game automatically. And if you recall back on that case, O'Connell talked about how the Vikings actually had said, hey, we would prefer not to have our bye immediately. They played at home and I think beat the Bears the next week. And so I asked O'Connell yesterday, I said, did you not mind a bye this time? Like, what's the difference? And he said a couple things. One is that game was in week 4. And so it was a week 5 bye. This game is in week 5 and a week 6 bye, which he said is basically more palatable. But the other thing too is, in his contention, he's talked about this in other subjects before, but He said it was his opinion this team was going to get off to a good start. Well, they clearly have. His feeling was, let's try and play 5 games, get off to a good start, and then rest. So that was what he told me. And he did say they also had indications that if they had waived the bye in week 6, they wouldn't have necessarily got a home game, which I think is ultimately a big deal. Like, it's one thing to fly home, get adapted back here, right? It's another thing to fly home, long flight home, you practice here, and then you leave again on Saturday. So all of those factors, according to O'Connell, are why in 2022, they actually said, let's delay the bye to push it back. There's an argument that actually helps. Because a week 5, week 4 bye, really early. But the factors that came together, according to Kevin, didn't make it worth their while to delay it this time.
On the flip side, this really is, I think, going to be the end of the Jets' hopes. I mean, the Jets fans, bless their heart, so excited.
Coaching change coming.
Have you seen their schedule?
No.
So they don't get a bye. They get the opposite of a bye. They get a game against the Buffalo Bills the week after this London game. It is a Monday night game, so they gave them an extra day. And it is a home game.
I wonder if they requested not to have a bye, because their flight's not as long as the Vikings flight.
Correct. Yeah. So
it's a quicker flight, but still, that's a tough.
And with an older quarterback and some offensive linemen, maybe, so they have a week 12 bye. But they play Buffalo on Monday night the week after, and then they travel at Pittsburgh against one of the best defenses, and that's a team. I know they lost last week.
When's their bye?
Week 12.
Okay, so they did get a late one. Well, I mean, but
there's a chance. There's a good chance. I think the Jets are going to be underdogs in each of their next 3 games. They could be 2-5.
Robert Saleh ain't going to be coaching them in week 12. He's now, I guess, turned incredibly defensive about this whole cadence thing.
It was made up or something.
It was made up that I talked about it.
Yeah, it's like, no, you brought it up.
Dude, you had 5 false starts, okay? And then you brought it up, and now you're like, you guys are making this up. Robert,
I love how they're dealing with all this whole lead up to the
You can't beat
Vikings
the
game.
New York. The New York media will dice you up. You're not going to beat them. Last thing. So Darnold is still wearing a sleeve. I mean, it's not a brace. It's a sleeve on his left knee. Wore it last week. Sort of tweaked the knee on Sunday. There was a play where he ran, got up a little bit slowly, hobbled a bit, and then seemed to be fine. He, of course, no surprise, said that the knee is fine. Have you seen the weekly USA Today NFL MVP rankings, which they obviously change?
Is he number 1?
5-1. Number 5, Lamar Jackson. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, Josh Allen. Number 2, Jaden Daniels. Number 1, Sam Darnold.
Wow.
Sam Darnold, according to at least one publication, is right now the odds-on favorite, or at least through 4 games, he is the most valuable player in the National Football League.
That's amazing. And I would say if that is the case, then Kevin O'Connell would be the odds-on favorite to be NFL head coach of the year. Those would go hand in hand.
Unless they collapse, I think he's a shoo-in.
You know, something we can address on the Thursday episode today, too, is Darnold was asked, this is Jets week.
Yeah.
The Jets, it was Mark Craig from the Star Tribune that asked about, do you think the Jets failed you?
Yep.
And I liked his answer. We can get into more of that on the Thursday episode.
Yeah. Sam is going to give you, and it's actually smart, but he is going to give you nothing as far as like how he really feels. So
he's not going to get up there and say, I've been thinking about this day for 4 years, slaying that train wreck organization.
Dude? If you play like this, you do you, right?
I don't need him to have like a laugh out loud dynamic personality. I kind of love that he's kind of a football cyborg.
Yeah.
I
personally like the McCarthy approach, but that's to your point, a personality thing.
I would prefer personality.
But
I agree.
Darnold, he's playing great. You know what? You do you.
Yeah, dude.
Whatever works for you, Sam. Whatever works for you.
Exactly. So, all right, those are Judd's practice notes out there every week.
All right.
At the Vikings practice facility. By the way, going through Prize Picks here, just kind of so tonight we've got. I feel like the Thursday night games have been, on paper anyways, kind of bangers. Now the result of the Thursday night games are kind of.
Al Michaels would beg to differ.
Like tonight it's Buccaneers and Falcons. So you got Baker Mayfield against Kirk Cousins, 3-1 Buccaneers versus 2-2 Falcons. So Kirk Cousins, passing yards 232.5, Baker Mayfield 243.5. Let's see here. Where's our guy? The number one MVP candidate, old Sammy Darnold. They had him at, was it 235? Here's 220.5. So Prize Picks, you can go on, open up the app right here. I got it right on the screen for you. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Select between 2 and 6 players. You pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. It's very easy. It's a fun way to ride along watching football. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code PURPLEDAILY to get a $50 instant deposit when you play just $5. That's Purple Daily on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play 5 Prize Picks. Run your game. We should also mention across the other podcasts. So Purple Daily, daily Viking stuff, and you're seeing that. If you're new to the podcast, welcome in this season. This is the place for daily Vikings entertainment, discussion, Vikings vent line right after every Vikings game. You guys have helped us set Purple Daily records for the first 4 weeks of any season we've been doing this show.
Love it.
But we also have the Score North Twin Show, which has been feisty the last few days. Flagrant Howls with a ton of Karl Anthony Towns trade recap. Kyle Teige is going to be back on today. Judd's Hockey Show with Wild Season picking up. And then Royce Unchained as well as other podcasts. So scorenorth.com if you're wondering what other things do we produce. When we got our OG podcast, Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd, 4 days a week too. So it's not just Purple Daily here at Score North. You can check out a bunch of other things that we do. We appreciate you supporting us, and we'll see you on the Thursday episode of Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.